What up, punkheads? Welcome back to a brand new Friday Night Fright review. I'm AJ Punk 15, and today's film is a brand new horror release, The Conjuring 2. Conjuring 2 is James Wan's direct sequel to the 2013 film The Conjuring. Once again, we have Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga playing their respective characters of Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are widely renowned demonologists back in the early 70s and late 80s, even to today with Lorraine. After the events of the first film, there was a little cliffhanger saying that they might go to the Amityville Horror House, which is exactly where this film picks up. Because of the circumstances revolving around the Amityville Horror House, a lot of people thought that Ed and Lorraine were hoaxes, charlatans. They just made stuff up to get views, kind of thing that a lot of people do on YouTube. Contrary to their belief, Ed and Lorraine actually believed and knew what actually happened at that house, but you know, it's hard to make people believe this sort of thing in the public eye. Normal church that give them cases directed towards the Vatican would not actually officially say go to this house. They sent them there on a 3-day trip to try to see if it was real, if it's a hoax. Because of the case of the Amityville Horror House, a lot of skepticism and disbelievers are arising in public eye, giving them a bad reputation, which the churches do not want to have. So they travel to Enfield, London, and meet the Hodgson family, a family who's been experiencing some very weird and paranormal activities going on in their house, evolving around a crooked man. Right away, I have to point this out. The girl that played Janet Hodgson in this film, Madison Wolfe, did an absolutely fantastic job. She is an amazing actress who's going to rise up the ranks fairly quickly, just like Joey King did with the first film. Now, if you thought the first Conjuring film was a masterpiece in its genre, The Conjuring 2 is no exception. It is still a masterful crafted film. James Wan knows what he does with horror. I have watched several interviews with the writers of the first film, Chad and Carrie Hayes, and I have to say, the certain scene involving Joey King where she sees the wall and it's just black and she said there's someone standing right over there, and James Wan didn't actually put anything there. He lets the mind play with these images and try to decide what's in that corner for yourself, and that comes to play a lot in this film, and I think it absolutely just works. It's one of these techniques that James has come up with himself when he's directing horror films that absolutely nails it. I only have 2 complaints about this movie, so I'm going to get those complaints out of the way first and then talk about the positives of this film. My first complaint is it felt a little long. There's certain scenes that not necessarily needed to be in the film. If you have seen the film, you probably know what scenes I'm talking about. Certain scenes just seem to run a little longer than expected. And my second complaint, which is not a big complaint at all, really, it's kind of just nitpicking the story a little bit, is that we don't get to see enough of the Warrens. The first film was very Warren-centric. Yes, we had the family at the start of the film and throughout the whole rest of the entire film, but there was a lot of focus on the Warrens itself. On this film, you got to see a little bit of the Warrens in the first hour of the film, but it's not a lot. The first hour or so of this film, there's not much Warren stuff going on. Even the first hour and a half, it's just, there's a very big centric role of the Hodgsons, which makes sense because it is basically a haunting in their life, and it's not the Warrens kind of thing, so it does make sense. Which brings me to my first positive of the film, which is the love story between Ed and Lorraine. It's absolutely beautiful. It's done so well, and all this chaotic and insane insanity ghost story, you get Ed and Lorraine, not to be cliche, but a match made in heaven. You have this clairvoyant and this up-and-coming priest, so to speak, demonologist, and they just meet, and it's just perfect. And there's a story in this film that shows how they actually met each other and how they're just perfect for each other, and that love story really blended well to the actual story itself of this family, a single parent trying to provide for her kids, even though she loves them so much and the father took off. You know, there's still a lot of love there. And with Ed and Lorraine and this central story going on, this little love story in the outskirts of the actual story itself of the Enfield Poltergeist, is a really cool take on these 2 people in this absurd world of, once again, Vera and Patrick just completely kill it in terms of playing their roles of Ed and Lorraine. I don't think 2 characters could have better fit the story or fit these characters other than these 2. It's just, in 2 films, they've done so well with crafting these 2 characters that it just fits in this world. They look like and feel like they belong in this story, in this film. Were there jump scares in this film? Yes. Were they false jump scares? No. Were they done right? Absolutely fucking yes. If James Wan knows how to do one thing, it's make a good horror film. He's not let me down yet. With his introduction of Saw in the early 2000s, right up to Dead Silence, which is pretty fun of a film. It's not that great, but it's still pretty fun to watch. To Insidious, Insidious 2, Conjuring, and now to Conjuring 2. James Wan has been absolutely killing it in the horror world, and I really hope he continues on this tradition. He takes horror as an art form. He crafts it so well and thinks about it so methodically, the way he sets up his shots and just the way he just films the film itself and directs his characters in the film. It's just absolutely amazing to watch. If you've ever seen any behind the scenes or B-roll credits of James Wan making films, he's really hands-on. He likes to get involved. He likes to figure out the shot beforehand and set it up and get everyone in the crew know, hey, this is what's going to happen. You know, we're not going to give any false jump scares. We're not going to set anything up to make horror fans hate us in regards to making a crappy horror film. We want to do it right, and we're going to film it right. And he's not let me down yet, and I have to applaud James Wan for making great horror films and making something to go to the theater to look forward to when it comes to horror films other than just indie horror. I don't hate on Hollywood big blockbuster horror films because I think they're all shit. I mean, James Wan has been doing this now since the early 2000s and making some beautiful horror films. It's just films like the Paranormal Activity stories that just pop one after another, and it just seems so pointless. There's no break between. There's no real story. There's no real excitement in the film. I can honestly say when I watched this film, there were several times I was on the edge of my seat. I'm a little bit crazy when it comes to horror films and I smile during the scary scenes, but I noticed a lot of people in the crowd were actually scared of the film. There's one scene in particular where the little girl, she's trying to do something and then her sister reacts to it, and then she turns on the light and then she looks at her sister's doing something else, and then she goes back to turn off the light, but she's afraid to turn off the light because of the circumstances involving what just happened, which I don't want to ruin for you because this movie was amazing. So when the sister turns back to turn off that light, it's just done so awesome where it's just all in one scene. It just keeps going with the camera panning back and forth. One of the people in the crowd that I was actually watching, the audience members, when he turned back to turn off that light and she stopped, jumped. That tells you he's doing something right in horror. If he can scare you with a lit lamp, there's nothing there. Imagine what he can do when it's actually time to scare people. And it was fucking amazing. To see everyone in the crowd, in the audience, just jump from being frightened, from all the intense suspense in this film was absolutely awesome for me. Another YouTuber who has actually put out a video of The Conjuring 2 and talked about something that happened to him in the theater revolving some pretty asshole-ish people, and he's made a rant on it, Chris Stuckman. Don't normally talk about big YouTubers in my videos, but I have to give a shout out to Chris Stuckman and his work with the Annoying Moviegoer Rant Part 2. Yeah, the same thing happened to me in this film. I have a friend that can back me up in the comment section. 3 girls on the left-hand side of us came in, taking selfies, recording the film, laughing, making jokes about what's going on, pretending not to be scared, calling their boyfriends, talking about who they should hook up with this weekend, and they're like 15 years old. If you're not there to watch the movie, get the fuck out of the theater. I don't want to hear your shit. I want you to get the fuck out. Let us who paid our money to watch a good film that we have been wanting to see for a long time and enjoy it on the big screen. Don't ruin it for everyone else. The same thing happened to Chris when he was watching the previews. Another movie produced by James Wan's coming out called Lights Out, which I'm really looking forward to. James Wan helped a indie filmmaker take a short film and turn it into a real life movie. And in that trailer, people were criticizing the person and the thing, talking to the screen as if the person's gonna talk fucking back to them. Like, hey, don't turn off that light. I told you not to turn off that light. Guess what? It's a fucking movie. It's already made. You can't make her decide not to turn off that light or not. I don't know if that's how your brain works, and I don't think you can actually talk to a TV screen or a movie theater screen. But I think you may want to rethink your life a little bit if you actually think you can change an already made movie on the screen. That's pretty fucking dumb. Enough about my little rant. I've noticed this in several horror films that I've went to now where a lot of people have talking, but this has been the worst one. The Conjuring 2 was my worst experience in the theater, even though I loved the film so much. That being said, I cannot get over how fun and frightening and scary The Conjuring 2 was. I think James Wan and the cast and crew and everyone just made a perfect horror film, and I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. Yep, the same score I gave the first Conjuring. I don't think there was that many flaws with it, and the flaws, like I said, that I did pick were kind of nitpicky. And maybe I thought it was long because I was being annoyed with the people around me. That could have took me out of the film itself. I'm going to give it a second watch soon enough, maybe when it's out on Blu-ray, and maybe it'll change my opinions on my little nitpicking choices. Anyway guys, I really hope you enjoyed my Friday Fright review. Check out some of my previous Friday Fright reviews. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. And as always guys, take care, stay frosty, and have a frightful Friday night.